Yo, chat been making, just like give me like 1 second. Just playing Fire Emblem. So good. So good. Right. So yeah, a bit of a rant type video, I guess. It's to do with I guess like 5 bugbears in the that I have with the community, but they all kind of segue into one another. It's all one sort of big miasma for the most part. And the first one is to do with like this concept of the hobby becoming more expensive over time, and well, particularly spiking in a very short time. And I just wanted to dispute that because we're seeing this discussion happen not just with collecting but with gaming in general. And I think, yeah, there's no need for me to talk too much about this particular series of points because they're all readily available elsewhere. But if we were to talk about, the production costs of games, they've like massively increased with like the size of teams massively increasing, so on and so on. The price of inflation, if they kept up with the price of inflation, if you go way back in time to like early gaming, like they were actually like $100. So the 70 a cart now doesn't seem so crazy, and so on and so on, right? And I'm not on the side of those apologists. They can keep sucking corporate lollipops for as long as they want. I want it to obviously be as cheap as possible because that means more games for me. But the only additional point I want to chuck into that particular realm is, both sides are right, really, as the case with just about everything. But one of the main sort of arguments that is made against, the is the increase in prices proportion, what have you, is, well, actually, a lot of games are digital now. They're purchased digitally, and so the production costs and the distribution costs and those kind of things, they are all massively decreased, and they may or may not be. They probably do produce less in total than they used to in their heyday, but they still do have to produce games, and when we're physical collectors, as we are, we want that to continue. So, we can't really make that kind of argument for the decrease. But that's not really what we're talking about when we're talking about the increase in games, right? We're talking more about the secondary market, because we're, as collectors, typically hoping to find older games, usually, and find them at a massively discounted rate. Speaking of discounts, I guess I want to backtrack a little bit. Again, I don't know what this is, but I feel like part of it comes down to being like a savvy consumer, I guess, because I can still get like new releases, like, okay, Fire Emblem, I paid like 30 quid for that. In fact, I paid like 25 quid for that, and I got that new unsealed. Like, you just gotta, again, it happened to have a discount on it, and I happened to like be given like a little voucher off Amazon. I paid like 25 quid for it. It's you gotta be a savvy consumer at the end of the day, and if you're not, then it's irrelevant whether or not prices are, high or low, because you'll always be paying to the higher end. But back to what I was going to say, which is, again, the idea that, oh no, we've reached this point in time now where games have increased in price and they're never going to drop, and some of that is probably true, right? I don't think it's entirely true, because, yes, they are. It is true, but like the arguments people make about it is so like extreme that they're almost ridiculous. Like, people go like, oh, long gone are the days where you went to a car boot sale and you picked up a box of NES games for a nickel. It's like, that never happened. Like, that happened once or twice. Like, that was a person's like one-off miracle story. Even then, like, the odds of that happening are the same now as the same then, because it's the odds of winning the lottery, effectively. It was a freak occurrence. It's true that games do cost a little bit more, because effectively what has happened is, again, people have become savvier sellers, like in terms of like the general population. So, and this is positive for us. This is the point I want to make, is that like, again, people will now look at a video game and they'll go, oh, well, this is actually worth a bit of money. You know, this, I'll grab that one again. They grab Neopets. I'll go, oh, Animal Crossing. Everybody loved Animal Crossing on the Switch, right? This has got to be worth a bit of money. That made more noise than I intended. That's going to be worth a bit of money, and that's positive for us. Because what happened to games that people didn't stick on eBay before, when people didn't think that games had value, they went in the trash, because that's where games that don't have value go, right? Again, when people say like, charity stores, maybe they would have gone in there. Never in my lifetime. Or again, the odds are about the same. Car boot sales. It's like, nobody. If your whole argument is car boot sales, like so small an amount of the population engage in car boot sales, that again, the odds of them having like a boatload of video games to sell is just absurd. It's a stupid argument, right? So actually, the fact that people are willing to pop them in a trading store now, they're willing to put them on eBay. This is actually kind of good, in that it increases the number in circulation, right? And that ideally drives down prices. Now, I mean, it's probably the only thing keeping prices in check at the moment. Again, the problem is never to do with the price of games. The problem is to do with, are you patient? And I think that that's part of the problem, because, again, a lot of what we're hearing now is about, oh no, it's almost like people love to moan, so they love like a nice communal grumble about something. That's my experience. But I think we're especially seeing people saying like, oh no, the games cost this much and this much and this much. I gotta buy them now before they go up again and again. And again, people who are like experienced collectors, they're like, you're driving the price up, bro. It tends to be newer collectors who have this attitude of like, we gotta buy now, we gotta get them all now. And this is why they don't pay good prices for games, because they think that like, they waited like a week for a game or something, they got a good price for it. It's like, no, you gotta be checking that thing, or like casually looking, or just hoping to see something, right? Over the course of months to years. Again, I talked about the Tokyo Mirage sessions. I've wanted that game for years, and I still overpaid a little bit for it because like it's not the easiest game to get a hold of. But I absolutely could have ended up paying. Actually, I didn't overpay for it. Like I paid more than I typically would for a game, just because it was there, and effectively, again, I viewed it as an opportunity cost for me. But I could have held out. Like again, I would have got it for cheaper, almost definitely, eventually. If you just keep waiting, like it will happen, right? I've got a wall full of evidence of that, right? Like. Let's feed on to the next one. I feel like I've belabored this enough. It's already been like pretty much 10 minutes, which is ridiculous. So, look, games, they are a bit more expensive, but not really. Again, you just got to be like a savvy consumer, not overpay. If you think that something's a bit more expensive and you want to pay, you just wait a little bit longer. You will get it for cheaper eventually. Right, so the idea that games, this feeds into the next part then, which is the games don't drop in price, and specifically Nintendo. Like Nintendo holds its value. It doesn't. It objectively doesn't. It observably doesn't. Like I said, evidence again. Fire Emblem right there. I paid half price for it, and it's still in circulation. It's and well, that's not an argument in this case. There's still so it's like almost brand new. It's been out for like a month or two. It's not been out for long to warrant that kind of price decrease. And this is a first-party Nintendo title. They could have charged more for it. They didn't, right? Out of choice. And yes, obviously I got it from Amazon or whatever, but like, again, they will have cut a deal with Amazon. Amazon wouldn't sell it for a loss. That's just how it is. Right, so there are so many, like, there's so much evidence of this, but I guess the one I want to talk about mostly is the Wii U, right? Because everyone, and amen, by the way, everyone's all of a sudden loving the Wii U. And I think part of the reason why is, again, it's a library of really high quality games that are, for the most part, particularly the Nintendo first party, really high quality games, cheap, 5 to 10 quid at most of them. So Nintendo didn't hold its value then, did it? It just didn't. It just objectively didn't. Right, but again, you can see it's for the Switch. You can go into, well, again, maybe we won't make that argument because it is new. But again, if you look at, say, trade-ins on like Xbox games or PlayStation games at the moment, they're far more expensive than trade-in to Switch games. Don't know why. But again, it argues the point that Nintendo is this like investment. It's true of the DS and the 3DS, and again, these are a system that the 3DS especially now is just going through, it's going through a spike because everyone's panic buying because of the 3DS closure, and obviously that's leading to the next spike in gaming. But you can get games there that are, I mean, most of the time they're like 15-20 quid max for a Nintendo third-party game, first-party game. But guess what? It didn't retail at 15-20 quid. It dropped in price. It did. It just did. I don't know where this argument has come from. Perhaps that it doesn't drop as significantly as others. But again, that's observably not true. Because other games hold their value and increase in value better than Nintendo games. And some don't. It tends to be supply and demand as is usual for these kind of things. If a game is very good, more people want it. Over time, less and less copies are available. They get destroyed, they get damaged, yada yada yada. And again, they tend to be smaller games, like cult games almost, like my copy of Misadventures of Trombone. Nobody knew about it. It slowly sort of spread through the community. It's like, oh, this is a really good game, and now loads of people want it. But then there was never much demand for it, so there's not a lot of copies of it even then. How this stuff happens is organically, and that's going to come up next. Don't worry. So it's just a game has to have this ratio of being of good quality, not having enough copies to go around. Nintendo kind of fit that niche in that they're a smaller distributor than other companies, like Sony and Xbox games. So yeah, their population probably is a bit smaller, and again, they tend to make really good games. They tend to make the best games in the genres that they're interested in making for. So yeah, again, there's an inherent desire here, but because they're Nintendo, these games are never small enough to be hidden gems, and they're still they're well known. So yeah, it's never going to be an issue to get a Nintendo game at a reasonable price. It just won't be. Now, as I said, I want to get into the next thing, which was about organic valuation of gaming games. So this is all to do with how everyone's now collecting sealed games, and it's just. Do you know, I think the irony about all of this is that everyone I know who collects sealed games, none of them are game collectors. They tend to be people who are more casual in the gaming space, which is, if you're not a collector, then basically you're a bit more casual. But they're people who, they like gaming, and they like the idea of making a quick buck off something that they like, or a very long buck, I should say. And so they'll pick up a sealed copy of the game. Tends to be Nintendo, because Nintendo always hold their value. And they're sitting on like multiple copies of this game, and I know multiple people doing this, and they all know each other. So they all know that they're all doing it, and yet for some reason they think that they're the only people doing it. So they think 30 years down the line, 40 years down the line, they'll pop up their copy of, again, so many of the cases are 3D All-Stars. I think that's what it's called, the Mario game that was Sunshine 64 and Galaxy all packaged together. They're all they're all holding a copy of this game. They're all going to release them out at the same time, and they're all going to be millionaires because the price of gaming will have skyrocketed to the moon. To the moon, friends. It's absurd. It's stupid. It's ridiculous. Like I said, they all know that they're all doing it, and yet for some reason, like, to do that and to make that kind of money, you need to be someone who, you know, didn't do what everyone was doing. That's the point. Like, these old games, the reason these old games are that are sealed now and really high quality now, a lot of the time they had like a story to them, because it was like almost like a miracle that they were like found, and like Uncle so and so had died, and then they're going through his possessions, and they found in a kitchen drawer a sealed copy of a sealed copy of Halo. And they were gonna, and there's an accompanying birthday card, and they're gonna say, you know, happy birthday, Sandra. I know how much you are looking forward to playing Halo, Sandra, and this is from me to you. And then he never gave it to him, and then 20 years passed, and now 30 years passed, and then he croaked, and then they find a sealed game, and they go, oh, I wonder if that's worth something. That time has passed, because that event already happened. Everybody now is trying to repeat that happening. It's too late. You know, if you were looking for something sealed to like speculate on, you need to find the next thing that nerds like. That's what needed to happen 20, 30 years ago, was someone needed to go, oh man, well, it doesn't have to be nerds, but like this time it is. They were like, oh, nerds, well, they like keeping their comic books in really good condition, and they like keeping their figurines sealed. Maybe I should do that with video games, because they also like video games. You need to do something like that if that's your goal, right? It's too late with the whole sealed video games thing. That's happened. It's done. Right, anyway. Oh, and then of course that feeds nicely into the next one, which is we've been hearing more and more about, like, I don't know what to call it. It's like the new form of disc rot, right? With the cartridges that have been printed by Nintendo since the 3DS and the Switch. There's some sort of like defragging or fragmenting going on effectively. I don't understand how it happens when it's not in the machine, but basically the best way for the disc's health, basically, to continue without like corrupting and not working, as happened. Like, I don't know if you remember, like a couple of years ago. I mean, this is how this whole story broke out, was people were putting in their copy of Omega Ruby, and I think it also had tied in something to like an update, or that was at least speculated at the time. But basically they put in their copy of Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire, and then they found out, oh no, it doesn't work anymore. And basically probably what had happened is they hadn't played it for a long time. I don't know why it doesn't work, but like apparently you pop it in and it does some sort of like self-repair, sort of. Again, in my mind, how I'm making sense of this is that it's like defragging the disc. So if you're keeping your game sealed, it's never going to go through that process, and it just won't work. So you literally cannot have sealed games at the moment, because, you know, it's like Schrodinger's cat, you know. It's like, God, and I hate that everything references Schrodinger's cat these days. But unfortunately, it's quite relevant in this particular instance, and I hate that. And yeah, you won't know if your game works or not until you take it out of the box. And again, the best way to ensure its good health, it appears, is to actually dust it off and play the game every now and then. Crazy. Well, hey, look, if I've got it, then that's what I'm gonna do. That opened to me like a bigger discussion. I want to go into preservation. This has already been like 20 minutes long now, so I don't know, broad strokes, I guess, which is, I've already mentioned it. I mentioned my very first video, where it's like stop kidding yourself about preservation. Unless you can show me what you are doing for, like ripping the data and then distributing it, then I don't know, you can make a case for preservation, except for, preserving for yourself, which is not the same thing. It's not, people say preservation like it's like a noble goal. It's not if you're just like trying to just hoard stuff for yourself. It's fine to hoard stuff for yourself, but it's not, don't act like you're being a hero. Yeah, I don't know, I don't want to go too deeply into this, right? But like, yeah, so just, you're probably not doing it for preservation. If you are, don't worry about it, because guess what? I said it's not just this stuff. Everything degrades over time. Again, there was the big thing a few years ago. Was it already? Has it already been years? CMOS chips and the most recent like PlayStations. Everything degrades, man. Entropy, heat, death, the universe. We're all going that way eventually. That's just what happens, man. Don't worry about it. And then final point really is just about, it's okay. It's okay to be a shelf collector. Look, at a certain point, and I say this because this is like a bit of a negative criticism that happens specifically for the game collecting community. It's like, well, you haven't even played all those games. Like, cool, dude, you're a stamp collector. Did you lick all those stamps? You wouldn't you wouldn't hear that anywhere else. Oh, you collect TCGs. Well, have you put them all in your deck? Licked them? It's something that for some reason only applies to game collecting. At a certain point, you have to resign yourself. I've got hundreds of games here that are unplayed, or that's not true, but there are hundreds that have been played to the bare minimum. I've seen credits roll and then feel compelled to move on to the next one as quickly as possible to just hit the credits roll on that one. Now I'm all laid back about it. Now I'm like, dude, I want to get the full experience out of every game that I can. I want to do the side content I want to do. I want to do the post game that I want to do. I want to replay a game. I'm replaying Paper Mario Color Splash again because we were talking about that recently, and I remember that I like it. So I'm playing a little bit of that just in the background, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that kind of stuff. Again, you won't get through everything. Like, if you've got a significant, serious collection, it's just not possible. Like, you're talking decades of your life doing nothing but that. That's just something you got to accept. And particularly if you want to, you got to recognize that they're separate hobbies. Right? There's gaming and then there's game collecting. They're separate hobbies, and it's fine to just do one. It's fine. Ideally, hey, do both. But it's fine to just do the one, and particularly for someone like me, again, you get older, you get more responsibilities. You ignore those responsibilities to play Fire Emblem and shout into the wind on YouTube, and I can't keep up with gaming in the same way that I could when I was a kid. Part of the enjoyment is buying the games and researching the games and keeping up with gaming news. Like, that's about as much as I can do, and then a few hours that I can just spend a week playing games, great. That's a bonus. That's my particular reason for collecting. Everyone's got their own reasons. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being a shelf collector. You enjoy it. It's your money. don't worry about it. I think that's just about everything I wanted to talk about. Obviously, I covered like a load of stuff here. And I am speeding through, particularly at the end here. So, I don't know. You know me, I always want to talk about any more we can talk about gaming in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video.